What if the impossible became possible right before your eyes? Picture this. A vast body of water, stretching endlessly to the horizon, suddenly splits apart like curtains being drawn. Today, we explore one of history's most extraordinary moments, when Moses raised his staff and the Red Sea obeyed, creating a path where there was only water. This isn't just ancient history. It's a testament to divine power that challenges everything we think we know about the natural world. The parting of the Red Sea didn't happen in isolation. It was the culmination of a series of divine demonstrations that established God's supremacy over the natural order. From the burning bush that wasn't consumed to the 10 plagues that humbled Egypt's mighty empire, each miracle built upon the last, creating a foundation of divine authority. Moses, once a stuttering shepherd, had become the vessel through which the Creator of the universe chose to reveal his power. The staff in Moses' hand wasn't just wood. It was an extension of divine will, a tool through which the impossible became reality. This foundation was crucial because what was about to happen at the Red Sea would require not just divine power, but absolute faith from an entire nation. The Israelites had witnessed miracle after miracle, yet standing before the vast expanse of water with Pharaoh's army thundering behind them. They needed to understand that their God wasn't just powerful. He was the master of creation itself. The Red Sea would become the ultimate classroom where heaven's authority over earth would be displayed in the most dramatic way possible. Every previous miracle had been preparing them for this moment when natural laws would bow to supernatural command. As the Egyptian chariots closed in and the Red Sea stretched endlessly before them, the Israelites found themselves trapped between certain death and impossible hope. This is where the divine intersects with human desperation. Moses didn't hesitate. He raised his staff toward the waters, and in that moment, the boundary between the possible and impossible dissolved. The sea began to respond, not gradually, but with the authority of the one who spoke it into existence. Walls of water rose on either side, held in place by an invisible hand, creating a corridor of dry ground where moments before fish had swum. The wind that drove back the waters wasn't just meteorological. It was the breath of God reshaping reality. Children who had never seen anything but slavery suddenly walked between liquid mountains, their feet finding solid ground where logic said there should be none. Elderly Israelites who had dreamed of freedom but never believed they'd live to see it now walked through the heart of the sea itself. This wasn't just a rescue operation. It was a demonstration that when heaven decides to act, earth has no choice but to comply. The very molecules of H2O suspended their natural properties in deference to supernatural command. How does water stand upright against every law of physics? The parting of the Red Sea reveals that natural laws aren't ultimate authorities. They are simply the normal operating procedures of a universe that has a higher authority. When Moses raised his staff, he wasn't performing magic. He was accessing the power source that established those laws in the first place. The wind that drove back the waters worked not against nature, but through a temporary suspension of natural limitations. Gravity still existed, but divine power overrode its usual effects on the water. The seafloor, normally hidden beneath fathoms of water, was instantly transformed into a highway complete with dry ground suitable for millions of people and their livestock. The walls of water weren't held up by any visible structure. They were maintained by the same power that keeps planets in their orbits and atoms in their proper configuration. This miracle demonstrates that what we call impossible is simply beyond our current understanding of how the universe can operate. The Red Sea event shows us that natural laws are more like habits of creation rather than unbreakable rules. And when the Creator decides to do something different, those habits temporarily change to accommodate His purposes. In Moses' hand, a simple shepherd's rod became the most powerful tool in human history. This wasn't about the wood itself, but about what it represented, the delegation of divine authority to human agency. When Moses raised that staff over the Red Sea, he wasn't commanding the waters through his own power. He was acting as the earthly representative of heaven's will. The staff had already turned into a serpent before Pharaoh struck the Nile to turn it to blood and summoned plagues that brought Egypt to its knees. Now, pointing toward the sea, it became the focal point through which divine power would reshape the very fabric of reality. Every previous use of the staff had been preparing for this ultimate moment when it would part the waters and create a path to freedom. The raised staff was like a lightning rod for supernatural power, channeling heaven's authority into earthly action. It reminds us that God often works through ordinary objects and people, transforming the common into the extraordinary when his purposes are at stake. The staff didn't make Moses powerful. It made him the visible expression of invisible divine authority. In that moment, holding that staff above the churning waters, Moses became the human bridge between heaven's intention and earth's transformation. The parting of the Red Sea created ripples that extend far beyond that single moment in history. Every generation since has found hope in this story when facing their own impossible situations. The image of walls of water standing at attention while God's people walk through on dry ground has become the ultimate symbol of divine intervention in human affairs. Modern believers facing their own Red Seas, whether financial impossibilities, relational dead ends, or health crises, find courage in knowing that the same power that commanded ancient waters still operates today. The miracle established a pattern. When God's people find themselves trapped with no human solution, divine intervention creates a way where there was no way. Scientists study the historical and geological possibilities, trying to explain how it might have happened naturally. But the real power of this event lies not in understanding the mechanism, but in recognizing the authority behind it. The Red Sea miracle tells us that our current situation, no matter how impossible it seems, is not the final word. Just as those ancient walls of water obeyed their Creator's command, the obstacles in our path are subject to the same divine authority. The same voice that said, "Let there be light," can still say, "Let there be a way." Standing before the mystery of the Red Sea, we reach the beautiful limitation of human comprehension. How do you fully explain the unexplainable? How do you measure the infinite with finite tools? The parting of the Red Sea reminds us that reality is far larger and more magnificent than our current understanding can contain. We live in a universe where water can stand like walls, where natural laws can be temporarily suspended, where the impossible regularly becomes possible when divine purposes are at stake. This miracle challenges our assumptions about what's real, what's possible, and who's really in control. It humbles our scientific confidence while expanding our sense of wonder. Perhaps the most profound aspect of this miracle isn't just that it happened, but that it reveals a universe where such things can happen, a cosmos ruled, not by cold mechanical laws, but by a loving intelligence who cares enough about his people to reshape reality when necessary. The Red Sea stands as eternal testimony that we live in a world where the supernatural is unseparate from the natural. It is the source of the natural. And in those moments when we most need it, that source can reveal itself in ways that leave us speechless, grateful, and forever changed. The next time you face an impossible situation that seems to block every path forward, remember that transformative moment when Moses raised his staff and the mighty sea immediately obeyed divine command. What appears to be an immovable wall in your life might just be waiting for the right word, the right faith, the right divine timing to part completely and reveal the path forward that seemed impossible. The same God who commanded ancient waters with such authority is still actively writing stories of impossible interventions today. What Red Sea in your life needs to part?